Storytime about when I messed up by telling a woman on our first date that her pepper spray is useless. So a friend sets me up with this woman because she thought we have similar hobbies and similar dark humor. We met today for the first time over a coffee and tea. We were actually having a good time, or at least I thought so. We clicked right away and had a lot to talk and laugh about. After like an hour, she suggested to pay for our drinks and go somewhere else for lunch, and I happily agreed. As we were about to pay for our drinks, she started searching her purse for her wallet and put various objects on the counter because she seemed to have a bit of a mess in her purse. One of these objects was the pepper spray. I casually mentioned after leaving the coffee, I'd consider getting a different pepper spray if you plan to defend yourself. This one is quite useless. For a bit of context, I used to test various pepper sprays and tear gas in the military. We were stupid and young, but it was also kind of thrilling. And the product she had was by far the weakest and worst we tested. I just recognized the bottle because it was so bad, and I thought I should let her know that this is probably not the best option to go with. But she obviously didn't know about that because, well, we just met an hour ago. After this comment, our conversation kind of died and she suddenly had a work emergency that she had to go to. It took me a few minutes until I realized that my comment was beyond creepy without any context. I'm definitely not used to meeting new people. Hopefully I haven't traumatized her. I sustained very bad injuries to my face this month. I'm in the stage of healing when the scar tissue has formed, but it's still very tender new skin. I'm going to have very obvious facial scarring for the rest of my life. The injury starts about an inch above my hairline, goes down over my eyebrows, so on that part, hair will not grow. It continues down my cheek where it's the deepest. I'll probably always have an indentation in the fullest part of my cheek. Then it continues to my jawline. In some ways, it's okay. I'm happy it's just cosmetic damage. My friends are super reassuring, telling me how badass and sick it's gonna look. They say I'm still hot as ever, now a little more sexy and mysterious. But in some ways, it really sucks. I know I'm always gonna be seen first as the girl with the scar, and it feels especially bad when people look at me differently. This week, I had to fly home for a family thing. It was a plan I made long before my injury. I wasn't really looking forward to the pity or people making a big deal of it. I'd rather it not be acknowledged. I'd also met with my dermatologist who said I was at the stage of the scar tissue formation that I no longer should be dressing the wounds. The skin was healing and instead I needed to be applying topical cream and Vaseline to keep the site clean and moist. It also looks a bit ugly. The building scar tissue is very red and tender, and with Vaseline over it, looks slick and shiny. So I get on this flight, I have the window seat and I put my headphones on and drift to sleep when the plane is still boarding. I wake up to this kid, maybe 4 years old, sat next to me, throwing a tantrum. I didn't catch the first part of it and I honestly couldn't understand what he was yelling about. His father said to me, "Can you cover that injury?" I said that my dermatologist recommends that I don't, so no, I don't think I will. He started snapping at me saying, "There is no need to be so rude. That injury is graphic and it's scaring my little one." I said, "This is my face. The only damn face that I've got. It sucks being told I'm so ugly that I can't show my goddamn face in public." He started to backtrack saying, "Just until it's healed." And I said, "It'll always be with me. Maybe teach some fucking compassion and respect instead of telling a girl half your damn age what you think about her face. That's rude." He actually got up after and I think he went to the stewardess about a seat change because a young couple came and sat next to me a few minutes afterwards. I've got to admit, I felt so low that I put on my sunglasses and had a quiet cry for a few minutes. Am I the asshole for not covering up my healing scar and for being confrontational about it?
Am I the asshole for telling my wife the lock on my daughter's door does not get removed until my brother-in-law and his daughters are out of our house? My brother-in-law Sammy lost his home shortly after his divorce 10 months ago. He moved in with us and brought his twin daughters Olivia and Sloane 18 with him a couple of months ago. His sister, my wife, and I have one daughter, Zoe 16, and she and her cousins aren't close but get along fine. Olivia and Sloane have no respect for Zoe's privacy, none. They used to walk into her room and take everything they get their hands on. Makeup, phone, accessories, clothes, school laptop, etc. Zoe complained a lot and I've already asked the girls to respect Zoe's privacy and stop taking things. My wife and Sammy saw no issue with this. After all, they're girls and this is typical teenager girl behavior. I completely disagree. The last straw was when Zoe bought a $60 MAC makeup kit that looks like a paint set that she saved up for over a month, and one of the girls, Sloane, took it without permission and ruined it by mixing shades together while using it. Don't know much about makeup, but that's what Zoe said when she found the kit on her bed and was crying. I told my wife and she said she asked Sloane to apologize, but I got Zoe a lock after I found out she was moving valuable belongings out of the house because of this incident. The girls were extremely upset. Sammy asked about it and I straight up told him. He said, "My girls aren't thieves. It's normal that girls of the same age borrow each other's stuff." He said that Zoe could easily get another makeup kit for $15 from Walmart and shouldn't even be buying expensive adult makeup in the first place, and suggested my wife take care of this defect in Zoe's personality, trying to appear older than she is. Oh, this is where the claws come out. He accused me of being overprotective and babying Zoe with this level of enablement. I told him that this is between me and my wife, but she shamed me for putting a lock on Zoe's door for her cousins to see and preventing them from spending time with her, saying I was supposed to treat them like daughters, then demanded I remove it, but I said this lock does not get removed until her brother and his daughters are out of the house. She got mad I was implying we kicked them out and said her family will hate me for this. So I reminded her that I let Sammy and his family move in, which is something her own family refused to do, so she should start with shaming or blaming them for not taking their own son and nieces and granddaughters in. If it wasn't for her family's unwillingness to help, we wouldn't be dealing with this much disturbance at home. Everyone's been giving me and Zoe silent treatment and my wife is very much upset over this. Go dad, good for you. Am I wrong for leaving my son's wedding early after he excluded me from his speech? I have a 23-year-old son, Justin, who got married 2 weeks ago. I wasn't physically involved in Justin's childhood because his mom and I got separated and I had to travel a lot for work, so his stepdad was more available than I was. During his teenage years, Justin started having fights with me, saying stuff like I prioritize work over him and that I'm a Disney parent but was never there for the hard times even though I provided for him financially. But he claimed that it's only because the law made me, which isn't true at all, and I strongly believe his stepdad was feeding lies into him. In the past 3 years, Justin started coming around and I met his then girlfriend, now wife. When I heard that they were getting married, I decided to offer paying for the venue and Justin seemed very appreciative of it. My wife and I attended the wedding and all went well, except when Justin started giving a speech. He kept talking about his mom and stepdad and nowhere did he mention me, not even with a single word of recognition. I was hurt and devastated. I couldn't help but feel this way. I tried acting normal and kept my composure, but I felt so heavy I decided to leave the wedding early. Justin called asking why I left so early. I said I felt sick, but he kept pushing until I told him that I got upset that he didn't mention me or recognize me in his speech. He said that I was being ridiculous to get upset over that. I asked him to respect how I felt, but he argued he wasn't going to lie to make me happy. I asked what he meant because as far as I know, part of his wedding was paid for by me. He said I was unbelievable, then hung up. I called again and we fought on the phone, after which I told him that I felt unappreciated and disrespected. He said he owed me exactly nothing and then hung up. We haven't talked ever since, and my wife says I went too harsh on Justin and should apologize for disrespecting his wedding and not showing support by leaving like that.
Am I the asshole for banning my sister from seeing my daughter after she took her to a Tinder date's house? Me, 25 female, and my sister, Lexi, 26 female, have a pretty good relationship. Lexi is also pretty close to my daughter, Emily, 4 female. Lexi has babysat Emily several times over the years, and there's never been a problem. A couple of days ago, my boyfriend and I were going out to celebrate our 2nd anniversary. Lexi offered to babysit for us, and everything seemed to be set up. My boyfriend and I were planning to be gone for about 8 hours. Unfortunately, about 4 hours into the outing, my boyfriend started to get a migraine. I decided to just drop him off at home so he could relax. I sent Lexi a text telling her I was on my way home early. After I got home, I noticed that Lexi's car wasn't in my driveway. I went inside and called out for Lexi and Emily. They were nowhere in the house, so I immediately called Lexi. After I called her 4 times, she finally picked up the phone. I started yelling and demanded to know where the hell she was. She said we would talk after she got back to the house. About 20 minutes later, Lexi and Emily showed up and I put Emily to bed. After she was sound asleep, I exploded on Lexi and told her to start talking. She told me that she was chatting with a random guy from Tinder and he asked her to come over. She said that she knew Emily would just sleep the whole time, so she agreed to come over. She said that everything was fine. Emily just ate some snacks and went to sleep in the guy's spare bedroom. I completely lost it. I cussed her out. I asked her how she could do something so reckless. She got mad and told me it wasn't a big deal. She would never let anything happen to Emily. I told her that she had no right to take my daughter to a random guy's home. She said that she can read people, and she knew that this guy wouldn't hurt anybody. I told her that she's nuts, and she put my daughter in God knows how much danger. I told her I can no longer trust her, and that I never want to speak to her again. I also told her that she's never allowed to see Emily again. She started crying and saying that I'm overreacting to the whole thing. I told her that I paid her to protect my daughter, not endanger her so she could go have fun. She continued to cry and beg, but I eventually kicked her out. My mom says that even though Lexi messed up big time, I still overreacted. My mom says that I should reconsider separating Lexi and Emily because they're family. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for making my wife think our son was missing? My wife has a horrible habit that I discovered 2 months ago. We were ordering lunch on the subway and I told her to pick the location that has a drive-thru, that way we don't have to go inside and take the baby out of the car. She told me it's not a big deal to leave the baby in the car and pick it up really quick. I had no idea she ever did this. I said I wasn't comfortable even for a minute and she told me she's been doing it since he was born. I was floored. We don't live in a horrible area, but it's also not super safe either, and I told her to never do this again. She told me she never thought about the potential dangers and that she would stop doing it. Well, yesterday I spotted her car at a gas station near our place. Am I the asshole for making my wife think our son was missing? When I got there, I was furious to find our son in his car seat and the car wasn't even locked. I decided to take my son and put him in my car. I then drove to the other side of the gas station parking lot and waited for my wife to come out. It took 6 minutes, and when she saw he was gone, she looked stunned and started frantically looking around and crying. When I saw her pull her phone out, I pulled around to her. She looked extremely relieved to see our son, but then quickly turned to anger, asking me why I took him and did that to her. I said she needed to learn her lesson, and she promised to stop leaving him in the car. It was so easy for me to take him. No one else at the gas station even noticed. She called me cruel and psychotic and is wanting an apology. Am I the asshole for donating my ex's things to Goodwill? My 28 male boyfriend and I, 32 female, broke up over Halloween weekend. We were together for 2.5 years and had lived together about 2 of those years. He moved out November 2nd, but not all of his belongings were able to fit in his car. He was planning on gathering the rest of his things a few days later, but before then I had decided to cut off contact with him. Before I did so, I called to tell him that he needed to get the rest of his things that weekend while I was away visiting family out of state. He agreed, but whenever I came home, I was annoyed and not surprised to see his things were still at my house. I then decided to wait a few weeks to see if he made any efforts.